Right, welcome everyone. This is a AI Ethics Workgroup training session on transcription. So without further ado, let's get into it, I guess. I'm going to screen share the slides, and I'll just drop a link to them in the chat in case anybody wants to follow along. There we go. All right, let's do it. Okay. So, yeah, AI Ethics Workgroup, how to transcribe. So today we're learning how to transcribe an interview in the intelligent verbatim style. Right, so at the end of this training, here's what you'll be able to do. You'll be able to choose a free AI tool to make a transcript of your interview recording, and you'll be able to make that transcript, confidently correct the AI transcript using an intelligent verbatim transcribing style, and understand how to name your transcription file and know where to store it and what access permissions it needs. Right, so let's just start off with a bit of introduction to what transcription even is and why we do it. Transcription has a few different meanings, but in this context, a transcript is just a written record of the content of an audio recorded or video recorded interview. So, in other words, we write down what the interviewer and the interviewee say, word for word. Well, kind of. Right, there's a couple of people just coming in. Let me just admit them and give them a second to get in. Right, hi Ashley and hi Advance. We've only just started, and I'm sure somebody will drop a link to the slides into the chat for you. Okay, so yeah, that's what a transcript is. It's writing down what people say. And the reason we do it, first of all, recordings can be hard to hear sometimes, as I was just saying. They might be not great quality. Um, Or people might have strong accents, which people from outside of that speech community might struggle with a little bit. And recordings can also deteriorate over time. Text is much more permanent, so it's a good solid backup to have if the file format that has been used for an audio recording becomes obsolete or whatever else might happen in the long-term future. And it's also actually quicker to read a transcript, at least for a native speaker. A native English speaker generally reads twice as fast as they can listen, maybe a little bit more. So, yeah, you can skim read the content much quicker than you can listen to it. And lastly, a transcript is searchable and indexable, and therefore it's more archivally useful. So it's useful to have that, although, of course, the primary source material is always the audio itself. And from that, you might get sort of more information, because it's about how people say things, not just what they say. I can see something in the chat. Let me know if somebody's just posting the slide, so that's great. Thank you. All right, so that's what a transcript is and why we do it. So, one question that people often ask is, can we use AI tools to transcribe for us so we don't have to do any work at all? And the answer is yeah and no. So let me explain. Our transcripts must be human corrected. You can use an AI tool to start you off, but then you need to check against the recording and correct the AI version, as it is quite likely to have some issues. AI often has trouble with things like, first of all, differentiating between different speakers. It's fascinating when you look at Read AI and see who it thinks you're the same person as. It's convinced that Peter and I are the same person quite often, which just amuses me. Um, it also
What?
it does very often. And sometimes it just can't split it up when one person speaks and another person follows on, even if their voices are really different. But especially, it can't really tell the difference between two different women. Whatever accent they have, if it's two women, they're the same person. And the same with two different non-US English speakers. A person from Ghana and a person from Nigeria. Yeah, same person to an AI quite often. It also can have trouble generally with understanding non-US accents and working class or non-standard accents, whether they're US or not. Um, it can have trouble understanding specialist terms. Some AIs, you can train them, you can give them a glossary, but they still sometimes struggle. And so these issues, as you can see, are likely to arise with a lot of our interviews, because we are mostly non-US speakers using specialist terms. So yeah, these are things we need to correct. And that's why we can't just completely leave it to AI. So what AI tools can we use? It's best to use something free, obviously. Ideally, something open source, just for the ethics of it. Ideally, something that will give you timestamps and will differentiate different speakers. And it's really cool if you can get a tool that allows you to, the first time someone speaks, you can name them, and then every time it thinks that person is speaking, it will put that name against it. It's also good to use something that will work on recorded audio, not just a live meeting. There's a lot of tools out there that we all use, which are for transcribing a live meeting. But be aware that the companies who make tools that work on recorded audio will often call this feature audio to text rather than transcription. So look out for that as a feature. So make sure also that you find a tool that lets you export your transcript to a doc. And check any maximum file size or maximum recording length in the free plan and what file formats it supports as well. Luckily, there are several tools that fit this wish list. So let's have a look at a couple of them just briefly. There's one called Revoldiv, which I quite like. It's free, it supports audio and video up to 2 hours. It seems fairly accurate. You just drag and drop your file and it will transcribe it. And it can also do one-click filler word removal. By filler words, I mean things like yeah, those kind of things. So that's quite handy. There's another one called Vibe, which is a free open source downloadable tool. So you download a version of it and then you can use it on your desktop or whatever. Oh, look at that. And then there's another one called Tactic. It's free. You can have 10 transcriptions a month on the free plan, but I haven't fully checked out what export formats it can do. It might just be PDF, which is not ideal for our purposes, but let's check if you want to try it. Oh, God, how did I do that? Okay. Note GTP, an audio to text converter. It's free, any audio format, and maximum of 100 minutes per file, which should be fine for most of our interviews. So I'm just wondering, does anybody know of any others that they habitually use?
I've used Otter AI a few times, like with the meta meetings. I've noticed some of the people use Otter, so it seems like it's pretty accurate.
Yeah, I mean, Otter, I think, does on the free plan allow you to work from recorded material, I think. But
Oh,
yeah,
does it?
I think so. It didn't used to, but I think it does now, so it's worth checking. Um, can see something in, yeah, Read AI, obviously. I don't know what it does on the free one, Peter. Do you know? Whether it has a limit on how long your audio file can be and whether it allows you to work from a recorded file.
To be honest there, and I don't really know, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I should have checked it before this session, but I figure, if there's a tool that you like and that you have and that you want to try and use, just have a look and see if it fits the purposes. All right. So you might be thinking, wait a sec. So transcription means writing down every single word, does it? Is that what we need to do? And the answer is no, not exactly. We are going to be using a transcription style that's usually called intelligent verbatim. Verbatim means word for word. Intelligent verbatim is, don't be an idiot about it. You don't have to write down every single literal noise that someone makes. So, in effect, intelligent verbatim is a slightly cleaned up version of what was said. So, this means that we do write down the words that people say as accurately as we can. If the speaker uses a dialect or non-standard English, we do not correct it to standard English. And if we think that they have made a factual mistake, like for instance, they've said Thursday and it's really obvious from context that they mean Friday, we don't change their words. Instead, we add a note. But we don't write down every little and and filler words. And we only capture details like laughter or gestures or pauses and silences or over talking if we feel that it reveals something important. So that's kind of basically what intelligent verbatim is, but there are different degrees of it. Some intelligent verbatim transcribers clean up an awful lot. So what you end up with is almost like a précis of what was said rather than an actual verbatim transcript. Others keep it much closer to word for word, but they just edit some details. Now, since in this project we are transcribing qualitative research interviews, it's important not only what the interviewee says, but how they say it. I'm sure you can think of examples in the interviews that you have done, if you've done any, where it is revealing how the person says something, the way they phrase it, even the pauses and the hesitations. So we are going to be tending much more towards the literal verbatim style. And when we say intelligent verbatim, it's just going to be making it a little bit more readable and a little bit clearer. So our approach is going to be, oh, I've done my animations wrong. I'm sorry. You remove any ums and ers and fillers unless you think they reveal something important, such as the person is hesitant about what they're saying or something along those lines. You can remove accidental repetition. So things like, people will say things like, well, I said, I told her, no, you shouldn't do that. And what they're actually saying is, I told her you shouldn't do that. So yeah, you can correct to that to make it more readable. If words are ascribed to the wrong person, you need to change that so that it's clear who's saying what. And if your AI tool has misspelled anything, and especially, which is very common, for it to mispunctuate anything, you can correct it. But you can keep the following. It's often helpful to note if someone laughs, and you can actually add almost like a tag, in brackets after what they've said, laugh. And if there's a pause of more than a couple of seconds, it's useful to add the tag pause, especially because if it's a long pause, the listener can think, hang on, has the file finished? Is that the end? So you just need to make that clear. And if one speaker talks over another, you can add over talking as a tag just to, make it clear that that's what's happening. If someone uses non-standard English, as I've said, don't correct it. The transcript should reflect what they actually said rather than what you think they ought to have said. And as we've said before, if someone's clearly misspoken, like saying Friday when they obviously mean Thursday, don't change the transcript itself, but just add a transcriber's note afterwards. So the person says, we're having a meeting on Thursday, and you just add transcriber's note, it was Friday, or whatever it is, just to make it clear. And most importantly, if you can't hear or can't understand, don't guess, just write inaudible. This also goes for if your AI tool thinks it's heard something and you're pretty sure that's not what's being said. Don't go with the AI dubious guess. Instead, go for saying that it's not clear. So here's your workflow, basically. Before we get into that, I just want to make a quick note on audio quality. Some of our interviews, as we've said, are not brilliant audio quality. They've not been passed as valid if I don't think they're usable at all, but some of them do have issues. AI tools will probably cope with many of these faults better than you will as a listener, so that it'll probably try to make some sense of it, but you might not be able to hear it. So when you're going to be checking the AI transcript against the recording, particularly if the gain is too low, if it's too quiet, you might need to make a working copy of the audio file and correct it. Now, a very important note here, I can't emphasize this enough. Never, never change the original audio file of an interview. Instead, make a copy and change that, just to avoid, any awful mistakes where you change it and you can't change it back and you've lost the file, essentially. So always make a copy if you're going to do anything. In fact, it's probably best practice to make a working copy for anything that you're going to do, even if it doesn't involve actually changing the file. So, for example, putting it through an AI tool, make a copy. It's safest. So if your audio file is too quiet or has other faults that you think you can fix, make a copy of it and use an audio editing tool. I mean, the classic is Audacity, which some of you will have used, but there's a ton of audio editing tools out there. So just use your favorite and increase the gain, and then you'll be able to hear it a bit better. Then proceed as follows, step by step. As we've said, before you do anything, make a working copy of your audio file. Put your copy through your chosen AI transcription tool, if you're using one. Export your raw transcript to a Google Doc. Then once you've got that, make corrections in your Google Doc, checking the transcript against the recording at any point that you're unsure. So you're actually directly making changes to the transcript in a Google Doc. Once you're done, name your doc with the same identifier code as the interview that it relates to. So, for example, WGQ3 VC001. For anybody who's not done interviewing, if you have a look at the training file material we've got on that, it explains about identifier codes. But if you're just transcribing an interview, just make sure that you name the doc with the same name as the audio file. Then make sure you give edit access to your doc for the AI Ethics Workgroup admin team, because we'll be checking it eventually. And if you've been a little bit overzealous, we can use version control to just roll it back and tweak it if necessary. Then save your doc to your folder on the BGI Nexus drive. That'll be the one with your interview files in it. Or if at some point you are transcribing something that isn't your interview, you won't have access to that. So you can just put it in the relevant, you can put a link to your doc in the relevant GitHub issue. That's probably the best way. And then we can transfer it into the folder where it should be. And of course, update your GitHub issue when you're done. Now you can delete the working copy that you made of your audio file. There's no real need to keep it, although you could just leave it in your folder and then you can use it again if you ever need to. So it's up to you there, but just make sure you don't end up with like 20 working copies. You only need one. And just a little note on this one about putting your copy through an AI transcription tool. To do this work, you don't have to use an AI tool if you don't want to. If you prefer, you can transcribe from scratch straight into a doc. Some people like to work that way. It's up to you. Okay, so now the practical bit of the session, we're going to have a look at an example. This is from a Read AI transcription of a meeting. Now, let me just put a link to this doc in the chat in a second. The doc is read only, so I'm going to ask you to make your own copy of it. And in your copy, make whatever corrections you can see now. So let me just stop sharing and I'll put a link to that doc in. And we can have a go. Because honestly, the best way to learn is to give it a try. So if you've got the slides open, you can follow it. But if you haven't got the slides open, there's a link to the doc. Let me just screen share that actually, so that we have that on the recording. And okay. So, oh goodness. There we go. So yeah, if you go to File and make a copy, because this is read only, and then just make any changes that you would make if you were making this is the AI transcript that you've got to work from. Admittedly, you haven't got the audio to work against, but some of the corrections should be fairly obvious. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes and have a little try, and then we'll share and go through some of the changes you could have made. Is that all right for everyone?
Okay. When did you mean we should copy the file and like edit? I didn't get you all.
Sorry, who was that?
Hello, Benny, can you come again on the latter parts? Did you say you should just make edits or just copy the file? And I didn't get you well.
Yeah,
on that.
you'll have to make a copy of the file in order to edit it because it's read-only. So make a copy of it, and then you've got 4 minutes now to make the edits that you
Okay,
think
there
you
you
would
go.
make if you were doing this. I can see a question from Gorga. So we don't make a new transcript from the interview videos. I'm not sure what you're asking there, Gorga. I mean, no, you'll be making a transcript. You'll be using whatever AI tooling you want to use to make a transcript, and then you edit it according to what you think.
Okay, all right. I understand, Ronnie. Thank you.
Mary, Mama, mommy,
Evelyn, do you know you're unmuted?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I just didn't want you to be saying anything private and we can all hear you. All right, how are people doing? Is there anyone who would like to screen share their version and talk us through what changes you made?
I will, yeah, but without the recording, I'm finding it a little bit difficult.
Sorry, without the recording? Oh, I see. Yeah. I mean, I think the things that you'll notice in this are pretty obvious. All right, well, we've got Peter's version. So should we take that first, or do you want to go first, Colleen?
No, that's fine. Go right ahead.
All right, let's have a look. Let me just screen share Peter's version. And right. Okay. Peter, do you want to talk us through what changes you made?
Yeah, I can. It should be showing comments. I'm not sure if it's
Oh, right. Okay. Where am I looking at?
one. I did. I'm not sure if this is the copy. Yeah, it is.
Ah,
Perhaps the other copy is mine. I'm not sure.
I think that's one I just made quickly now. So,
It's confusing why it doesn't show any comments.
oh, that's frustrating.
Check the version.
Yeah. Could you reopen the link, please? I
Oh,
just
there we go. Yeah, I think it was an access issue, maybe. There we go. All right. So,
yeah, starting off with just a very minor
yeah,
sorry I got late instead of so I got late.
yeah,
And then SNET being a
yeah,
technical, I guess. Best case scenario instead
yeah,
of which, yeah, I don't know.
yeah. And I've actually got my real name, which is grand.
Yeah.
And yeah, work
Okay.
group. Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
that's
there's a couple of other things that, yeah, but that's a really cracking start. Um, Colleen, do you want to share screen on
Yeah,
yours?
sure. Sure, let me look here. Hang on just a second. Go back.
Oh, just one sec. I just saw Ashley's hand go up.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah. The part where Peter says at 30:48, sorry for being late, no worries. Thanks for joining in. Instead of yeah, okay, so there's yeah, just take that out and just go from joining
Oh,
in
yeah, you
to
could. You could actually. Let me just screen share so people can see what is being talked about. We're just talking about here. Yeah, we could lose like all of that, really. Yeah.
so it could be sorry for being late, no worries, thanks for joining in. So there are basically there's 3 points
hmm
and just skip there.
Yep, that's grand. We could. The other thing is, Guillermo is the one who's apologizing for being late. So Peter is not going to be the one who's saying that. So if you did want to keep it, that would be up here. Sorry, I've just messed with your version, Peter. I'm sorry, that's not what I intended to do. But yeah, so actually that's ascribed to the wrong speaker. Yeah, Colleen, go for it.
Okay. Let's see. What I noticed in the beginning was redundancy, but I didn't do the comment thing. And while I was doing this, I wondered about that, if I should be tracking my changes. But I remember there was some redundancy here where it said fair, fair. I took out one of the fairs. Is that correct?
You can do, yeah. I mean, personally, I wouldn't because I think it's the person's speaking style, but it's absolutely valid to do so.
Okay.
What I'm hoping we'll get from here is there's not necessarily that many, there's not a right answer. It's how you do it.
Okay. And I think I did the same thing here with the yeah. I did kind of look at the sorry for being late, and I kind of wondered about that, and then I passed over it. And I didn't get too far. I got this SNet, like you mentioned. Can't remember what else I did. Yeah, without seeing my changes, I can't tell.
Okay. All looks good though, yeah, and well picked up. Advance?
Yeah, sorry. Actually, my PC is just what do you call it? Holoton, so I think might be slow on that. But I think the first one, which the 29 minutes, Kizzy or Inubu Onyeka, sorry. Yeah,
All
so
right,
the yeah,
let
the
me just screen share so that we can see
yeah,
what you're talking about.
Perfect.
Sorry, I'm getting the right version this time. And there we are. Yeah, so you're talking about the first line?
Yeah. So the fair, yeah, the other fair can be more like expressing one word. Yeah, so I think we can eliminate that my end. And the other one on Peter's side was on trying to suggest the correct word in the content process. Consent process, right?
Right, I can't see where is it in this chunky speech here?
No, the second paragraph.
Oh yes.
Yeah, so I don't actually know whether it's supposed to be content, but I'm trying to suggest a correction, not clearing that content process.
Yes. What were you well spotted? What are you going to change it to?
Consent, maybe consent in that
Absolutely.
is it block bracket consent
Yep,
process?
absolutely. Yeah, you've got to have sharp eyes, haven't you? Because that could have easily slipped through. But when you were listening to it against the audio, I think you'd almost certainly all have picked that up. But yeah, just looking at it as text, it's maybe not that easy.
Yeah.
Well spotted though.
Yeah. And okay, so I think this for now. I'm currently checking the other ones. I just have to switch my laptop there. So I'll do that. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll just whiz through. Oh, hang on, I can see something in chat. Let me just check.
That was just a side note.
Oh, happy birthday to your cosmic twin. How exciting.
Oh, Coley, we share the same birthday. Interesting.
Yes, we do.
For anyone
Wow.
who's listening to this recording and thinking, what are they talking about? Colleen and Advance have the same birthday, which is pretty cool.
Sorry, I
All
closed
right.
it.
No, I think these things are important and we should know. All right, let me just run through a few others that you might have missed. I mean, yeah, this. I think it's unlikely that Kizzy was the one saying that. That's a response. So I'm pretty sure that that was Peter. Yeah? So that's one of the downsides of having these discussions anonymous, basically. And Peter is going, yeah, that's fair. In the meantime, yeah, just for a bit of bonus context, blah, 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 we're discussing anonymity in the consent process. Now, is Peter likely to be saying, yeah, yeah, yeah? I don't think he is. I think that's Guillermo speaking. And it's actually then 39 rather than 40. So, yeah, yeah, yeah. So Peter noticed that sorry, got late, but I was able to understand the whole point of the discussion. Then we're on to Peter. Now, there must have been a bit of a pause here, I guess. 39 seconds, a short comment, and then the next thing that's said is at 48. So I think there's probably justification for adding, try and spell it right if you do that. Obviously, you will know that when you listen to the audio, you'll know if there's a pause, but I think even just from looking at this, you can see that there was. So now the other thing is Peter is not the one who's apologizing for being late. It's Guillermo. Oops. And then it's going to be Peter who says, no worries. Thanks for joining in. So now we've got two there's. So there's basically, I think we could reduce that to, there's basically there's 3 points. We can reduce it to that, can't we? There's 3 points. And we were not talking about the current situation where people have access to SNet Gmail, can see who submitted stuff. So that's one side. And it kind of feels like there's no easy fix for this. Let's see the other ones on providing a safe environmental. Really? It's going to be a safe environment, isn't it? For sharing your opinion? Really? I don't think so. Which, in the case of an objection to whatever the proposal is, well, it's a bit of a, well, it can be hard. This is debatable. This is kind of maybe reflecting a bit of hesitation on what he thinks. So you could leave it in, or you could take it out. That sort of hesitating, well, yeah. You need to speak up and people will know you were the one with whatever objection it is. So yeah, that might cause some people to not step up and object while they, yeah, I think I'd leave that in, that sort of hesitation and sort of dropping off mid-sentence. Provided they were fully anonymous, they perhaps would step up. Yeah, to me, this is how to say best case. And I think I'd repunctuate it as well. This is, and he's kind of going, yeah, how do I say it? So that's a parenthetical how to say. This to, yeah, to me, this is how to say it. And I'm pretty much betting that what he actually said was a best case scenario. And then you can repunctuate there. People would feel perfectly safe sharing their opinion on any topic. Now, I think again, I'd repunctuate. That's a new sentence. And I bet he said, that's quite a naive stance, of course. And there's a missing full stop. Any thoughts on this? Now, is Peter going to be the one saying, yeah, I've got one sort of thought? I don't think he is. So it's going to be, and then the timings are probably very close to that. So it's probably, oops, sorry, that's not what I meant to do at all. Oh, sorry. So these are obviously different people speaking. It's not going to be much time to say these things, so it's probably something like 32:20 and 32:21, isn't it? And you just mark them as speakers. And then, yeah, in a way, I don't want to know who objected to a work group that I care about. All right, I hope that was kind of useful going through those little details. Has anybody got any? Oh, there's a couple of comments in chat. Let me see. Oh, still birthday stuff. All good. Yeah. Has anybody got any thoughts or comments on those little changes? Was there anything that you think, oh God, I wouldn't have done it like that?
Yeah, yeah, Vanny, so I wanted to find out, I think when you're trying to correct something, do you have to clear after listening to the recording and it's not that clear to you, and you know that this was what the person was referring to, do you have to clear or you just add it as in suggesting a correction to the, yeah.
No, if it's really not clear to you, then just add a note that says not clear or
Okay.
inaudible or whatever. But mostly from listening and from what you know of, hopefully it will be your own interview that you're transcribing. You remember what was said, you know something of the person you're interviewing. You should mostly be able to make sense of things. If you really can't, oh God, I should have put this in the slides actually. Listen to it with headphones. It's going to make it a lot clearer. And don't try listening to it in a noisy environment or whatever. And yeah, sometimes you do need to play things 2 or 3 times if you're really stuck, just to make sure that you have heard it right. I'll add that to the slides actually, headphones, because it really does help. But yeah, if you still don't know after listening to it a couple of times, don't like beat yourself up about it. Just put that it's inaudible or unclear.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. Anything else that people thought, oh yeah, I wouldn't have thought of that. Let me just go back to that transcript. Yeah, was there anything that you wouldn't have changed in the way that I did? Because you may well be right. I mean, I still think, even if, if I was actually transcribing this in real life, I still think this chunk is maybe a little bit unclear. You're aiming to make it readable, and you're aiming to make it transparent what is being said. So I think, yes, some of it maybe I would tweak a little bit more. Oh, hi, Essie, welcome. So let's just go back to our slides and we'll just finish off. Okay, so you can have another go. Anybody who's arrived late, do feel free to have a go at this practice exercise. And yeah, I'm just going to run through now the standards that we expect when you're doing this task. So yeah, you need to check the following. Speech should be ascribed to the correct speaker, and you'll be able to tell that much more easily when you're listening to the audio than you were able to when you were looking at it just on the page. Any specialist terms, like we had SNet and we had a couple of others in there. Anything that the AI got wrong, you need to correct that to what the speaker actually said. And specialist terms includes, technical vocabulary, but equally it includes references to people, places, local slang, whatever else. So it's going to be really good if you are the interviewer and the person you're interviewing is from your speech community and they use something that's slang, you will know what that word was and you'll be able to correct it. Timestamps should be at least roughly correct. They're not hugely, don't worry about getting it to the second, but yeah, obviously it should go in order from start to finish. You shouldn't have things that are given a timestamp that is earlier than the timestamp following and things like that. So just make sure that it roughly works. Spelling, grammar, and punctuation should be correct as far as you can. And the transcript should read well. Like I was just saying with that little chunk in the test exercise, it still probably could do with a bit more tweaking because it didn't read particularly clearly. If the speaker has made an obvious factual error, just add a transcriber's note. And don't alter the meaning of what anyone says, either the interviewer or the interviewee. Even if you have an opinion about what ought to have been said, remember you're a transcriber, not an editor. Your job is to get down what was said. This can be really difficult when you're transcribing your own interview and you, as the interviewer, said something that you just think, oh, I shouldn't have said it like that. I should have said it like this. Doesn't matter. What you're aiming to get down is what you actually said, even if it's not what you think you should have said. So factual is
Yeah, I think
important.
that's an important point. Definitely.
Yeah, it is. And, it is really easy to just think, oh, I just mispronounced that word. I can just change it. But yeah, we just want to get down as close as possible to what was said. Before I get on to payment, I can see a couple of new messages. All right, good, good. Clement, you've got a hand up. Go on.
Yes, just you can finally talk now. Can you hear me?
Sort of. It's a bit mushy. Go on anyway. Let's.
Yeah, sorry. I'm in an office space now, so it's quite noisy. So I want to ask, I mean, for the part that says you should ascribe the words to the original speaker. Now,
Yes.
for example, there were certain interviews that were like kept strictly anonymous. I mean, at least for mine, I didn't mention the speaker's name, or I
Ah,
didn't give room for the speaker to introduce his or herself
yes.
throughout the conversation. So, I mean, if I'm to have transcription for I can actually know who's actually speaking. But then, I mean, If let's say
No.
I have to transcribe for someone else, I may not know who is speaking, you know. So I mean, how do we have stuff? Do we like have like nomenclature like speaker and then the interviewee
Yes.
name?
Yes, that's
Or
exactly what you do. And I will add this to the slides because this is a really, really good point. You don't need to use names. You can use interviewer, interviewee one, interviewee two, if there's more than one. Yeah, and that is probably the best practice. That is what we should do. So thank you for raising that, and I'll tweak the slides so that it says
yeah,
that. Yeah,
thank
very,
you.
very good point. Thank you. All right, let's just go through the payment issues. Obviously, we as the admin team, we're not going to have time to check your transcript in detail. Editing transcripts is a paid task that we will need to do later, so we'll need to put some budget for that in Q3, maybe, depending. But we will assess your work to some extent. We'll skim through, looking for the key validity issues that we've listed earlier, like do things seem to be ascribed to the right person, and is it readable and that kind of stuff. And we might, if there's something that's really muddled, we might briefly check it against the recording, but we're not going to spend a great deal of time checking. So in Q1, we have enough funding to do 15 transcripts. It's not a lot. So ensuring everybody gets a fair go is going to be a bit fiddly. We'll initially look for 1 or 2 transcripts from each interviewer. So yeah, if you're up for doing transcribing, we'll just have to probably make a Discord group or something and just try and work it out who is going to do what. Or I might just DM you as an interviewer and just go, are you up for transcribing your first interview? And then in terms of like getting paid, if your first transcript, your first go at it is generally really poor, we haven't got time or energy to be fussing about it. And also people are learning. So you will get paid this time, but we'll let you know that there were problems. We're going to have quite a high bar for this. If it's not perfect, we're not going to like give you a hard time, but we will let you know if it's clearly something that you don't have an aptitude for. Because, it's a fiddly task and not everyone has the kind of mind that enjoys it. So we're looking for people who do have a certain turn of mind that means they can do this sort of thing. So if your work overall is poor, you're unlikely to be on any shortlist of transcribers for the future, but you will get paid this time. So, any more questions?
So I just wanted to raise Granny that I mean I know you shared the resources already, but there's quite a number of persons who are not here. So maybe in the transcribers group, you could take out time to reshare most of
I'm
these
sorry, I
resources you
can't
shared
properly
already.
hear. Can you?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
So I'm saying maybe in the interview, the transcribers group, you could take out time to reshare the resources that we shared here already,
Yes,
so
absolutely.
people can have a look.
I will do.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments? I'm just going to put in the notes, anonymous, no names. And what was the other? God, there was something else that someone said. And I said, yes, I will add that to the notes. Oh, I'll listen back to the recording and find it. But yeah. Right, well, we're coming up to 5:02. There's still time for any questions. Can I just see, stick your hand up if after having gone through that, you are still interested in doing some transcribing? Just to get an idea.
Sorry, I thought I was unmuted. Sorry. I had a question.
Oh, right, go
Uh,
for it.
yeah. So, assuming you had let's say 5 interviews and you want to transcribe, or I saw on the presentation that interviewer can transcribe 1 or 2. So is it that you do one or two after you check, then you can continue on with the rest, or you're supposed to do all your transcription? There was a time you shared on the AI text a channel that if you would like to transcribe all your interviews, just give a check. Yeah, so I just wanted to get clarity on right now and then.
Yeah, it's just a budget issue at this stage. We haven't got enough budget in this quarter to do that many. So I suppose I'm just concerned that it should be shared out fairly. So yeah, there's probably about, how many interviewers have we got? There's probably about 12 people who've done interviews. So I think it's just a matter of, if it's your interview, you get first dibs, and then if there's, not that many people who are stepping up, then anybody who's done the training or looked at it in their own time can have a go. So yeah, it does need a little bit of thinking, but I think what we're going to do is take it stage by stage and
Okay, that's clear.
do a couple and then take it further.
Okay, that's good.
Colleen, is that a hand up to ask a question or say something, or is that yes, I'd be up for it?
No, I'm up for it.
Right. Can I see any other hands up for people who are not thinking, oh God, this is awful, I don't want to do it? Is there anybody else who thinks that they would be interested in doing it? Barnabas, nice one. How about you, Gorga? How about Clement? Are you thinking you would do some?
Yeah, yeah. I'm up for it. I'm up for it.
Excellent. Ashley, is it something you'd be up for doing if we've got ones that people don't want to do their own?
I can make an attempt.
Excellent. Grandison, we've not met before. Nice to meet you. What's your Discord name? So I can find you again.
Grandy.
Okay, good. And you're up for giving it a go if there are any interviews that people are not doing. Gorga, I saw your thumb up as well, so you're up for it. How about Essay and Eveline and Sucra? I think they can't come off mute. So I'll DM you and ask. All right, well, that's the hour. And if you've got any other questions, just like DM me or post it in the AI Ethics channel. And yeah, we'll hope to get cracking as soon as we can. I can see Sucra and Essay saying they can't come off mute. Give us a little thumb up if you are. Oh, right, Essay saying, however, I can be able to do one or two, but not all. All right, good one. Perfect. Yeah, so drop me a message if there's any questions. And also when you're actually doing it, feel free to message and go, how do I deal with such and such? But yeah, all good. I'm going to stop the recording. Oh, I'm saying that. Can't actually find it. There we go.